Um, Again, I want to thank you for tuning back in with us. We're moving on to topic number 3 in our community conversation. Um, this is the one I've been looking forward to. This one is about action. Practical, intentional acts that every Christian, and again, we're coming from it from a faith point of view, and that's my bias because I believe that the answer is found in a walk with Christ. Practical, intentional actions that every Christian should participate in that will be beneficial both locally and nationally. And and I think that this is really important because I think, Tony, in our earlier conversation, you brought up the fact that some of our spiritual leaders have been very silent when they needed to be vocal. And one thing that I've read online or on social media, that prayer is not enough. And when I first read it, oh, you're offended. Prayer can solve all things. But then it didn't take long for me to realize how many sermons have I heard that says we need to put feet to our prayers. How many sermons have I heard that says ask the Lord to allow you to be the answer to your prayers? So when that term prayer is not enough came out, that's not a new statement. That is a common understanding in Christian circles. But with that said, what are the top actions? Individual, I'm talking about a single person. What are the top actions an individual Christian can take to make a difference? And Chief, I'll start with you.
My mindset typically is going to always go back to individual actions. As a Christian, if we're really not taking actions to fix racism, we're probably really not being a Christian. We're not walking the walk. If you set about to live Christ-like in your daily life, I'm not going to have to say, let's make a difference in the world. How can I stop racism? Because you're going to do it automatically. I think individual Christians need to get involved. Too many of us Christians, we're in a small closet. Well, there's a big old world out there. It's a mansion, but we stay in that little closet. I go to eat, I come home, and we don't get involved with other people. We don't touch other people's lives. And that's one thing I think we can all do individually. When I was coaching middle school football, we had this thing called the day of accountability, where all the other coaches sat in the coaches' room, and we had to tell something we did individually to help somebody else. And I couldn't come in and say, well, I gave my son lunch money, or I went to my cousin's house. No, that's what you're supposed to do. What did you do to help somebody else? And those are the kind of things that we could do. What do you do individually? What need do you meet? What action do you take? I'll tell this story. I've told it many times, but I guess many more people hear it. I got saved in 1989 as a young Marine. As a young Marine, you don't have access to a church or a spiritual mentorship. The mentorship wasn't there. The desire was, but there was no church I could go to on a regular basis. So my walk with Christ was severely lacking for 6 years. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I didn't take not one step to renew my walk with Christ. But I would go to work, and the chief of police at the time, Chief Steve Hanks, he had an open door. He would let you discuss anything, even though you were an entry-level guy. I could walk in and say, Steve, we need to do this, and we need to do that. And he was the kind of person you could talk about it with. And when we were having conversations, me being 26 and knowing all, he would pretty much end every conversation the same way. He would tell me something about the Bible. This is what the Bible is. This man put that Bible down. I need to win one of these. And I would watch people do awful things to him. And I'm talking about awful things that would make me want to beat you and your whole family up. And I would watch him turn around and be as generous as he could be to those people. And I asked him, and I remember, I won't call call out any names. I remember somebody did something terrible to him, and I said, how many times are you going to overlook that? He said, 70 times 7, I'm not really good at math. And I thought to myself that day, I got to get back to church. I want to be more like that. But it's the individual actions we take. It's not missing those opportunities. How many opportunities do we miss every day because we're focused on going from point A to point B? I think that's what individual Christians do. I hate to be long-winded. I'm not typically long-winded, but I was having a conversation with one of my Caucasian friends, and he was telling me about another guy that was racist. And he was white too, and was with another black guy. And I thought to myself, and I later said, how can you be friends with a racist? And I thought to myself, don't say that out loud because you got some black friends that are racist. And I made it a point from that conversation on that if one of my black friends said something racist, I would say, listen, that's not one racist side. You might want to rethink that theory. Things like that, I think, what will make a difference.
That's real good, and I just want to, I was thinking, Bible is full of answers for us. And I couldn't wait to get to this. Again, I try to not get ahead of the game on these questions. You got a bunch of parts here. I'm sure we'll eat here in a minute. But anyway, Romans 12 kind of sums it up, I think, Jamie, in verse 9, and I'll read it starting in verse 9. It says, let love be without hypocrisy. Because there's nothing worse than a hypocrite, not just for lost people, but for us who claim to know Christ and have known of Him. Abhor what is evil, but cling to what is good. Be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor, giving preference to one another. Not lagging in diligence, fervent in spirit, serving the Lord, rejoicing in the hope, patient in tribulation, continually steadfast in prayer. Watch this. Distributing to the needs of the saints and given to hospitality. Bless those who persecute you. Bless and do not curse. Rejoice with those who rejoice, and weep with those who weep. Be of the same mind one to another. Do not set your mind on high things, but associate with the humble. Do not be wise in your own opinion. Repay no one evil for evil. Jamie, I got to read that to you again because I don't think you heard me. Don't repay evil for evil. But look what it says. Doesn't leave you hanging. If it be possible, as it depends on you, live at peace with all men. Now, Jamie, is there anything better than that? There's nothing better than that.
That's it.
I mean, that's just it. And it says, don't avenge yourself, but rather give place to wrath. For it is written, vengeance is mine, I will repay, saith the Lord. And so, what can we do? It's said here in the scripture. It's giving us and leaving us example to follow in the steps. And again, I've been criticized for not readily raising a banner against people who have injustice. But I think it goes further, as I said earlier, Jamie. It goes to just don't hide it under the rug. You know, just don't sneak it by us. We're not dumb. We know it's gonna come out. Now that we got videos, not just with police officers. I'm just talking about, you know, whatever. And used to, we didn't have, just think about all the possibilities or the other times that this has happened without video. I'm talking about any instance, you know, and even my own experiences. And I think I told Jamie, and I'm a self-described, I've been pulled over more than anybody and not getting a ticket. and my wife will tell you, it's always, you know, you think about it and I'm going, my response, God has always given me a good way to respond. He's protected me in those situations, and it's been good. And I thank God for the scripture that gives me a basis of how I can react to these situations. And that's kind of where I am with all of these in part 3. Jamie, what actions do we take? It's scripture, not just in Romans 12, but it's all through scripture, and gives us a game plan, so to speak, of how we are to live our lives during these times.
The Romans 12 echoes so many things we've already discussed today with the personal accountability. Live at peace as far as you're concerned. And the grace and the forgiveness. I think a lot of times growing up in the South, growing up in Sumter and then going to college, and everybody got hurt by somebody, and I'm this way because they did this. Well, they're that way because somebody did that. And that goes back earlier, we were talking about there's so much blame that personal accountability begins to disappear. And if somebody will step up and say, I will be Romans 12, even if nobody else will, that cycle of hurt and blame and revenge can be broken with that one person. And so thank you so much for that scripture.
Jamie, another thing too, I think we go a little bit further if we could get, this meeting is safe with us.
Right.
We're pretty smart folk. Okay, we're safe here. We're not going to have a debate that we may disagree on a couple of things, but we're not going to have a debate about what is right, you know. But I think what actions you could take, I don't know what happens in Honeypath, South Carolina, but we've got 4 other empty chairs here. We need to invite the world, see what they say.
Right.
Let's hear from them. Let's hear from some young people, the millennials. You know, so our voice is going to be that which is of peace. I don't know if their voice is going to be that which is of peace. I don't know if they're going to be honest with you. But I think at some point in time, what actions we take is not just the Tony Eubankses or the chief or Demetrius. We got to have people here that maybe we hear them out other than get a whole different perspective. Again, nothing against you. I appreciate it. You calling us here to this assembly. But I think what we do is to help with this is, prayer is not enough. We got to be doers of the word. There needs to be other people in here with us at some point in time.
And you're right, because I believe even in our correspondence, I think I said that one of the reasons I invited the people I invited was because there was trust.
Right.
And I'm comfortable around the people sitting at this table.
A lot of these questions could possibly be answered by them, by others. And what I mean by that is, somebody asked me before. He said, again, why these blacks? 7% of the police, when they pull people over, blacks and whites. There's more whites arrested. There's more white people killed. And I said, I don't know you. I appreciate your stats. I don't know all of that. But why don't you just tiptoe up to Minneapolis, St. Paul, and ask them? Why don't you go to East St. Louis tonight, okay? And ask people who are throwing rocks. I ain't throwing rocks. So what I mean by this is it gives us a whole different perspective, so to speak, as to where people and what they're thinking. I don't know a man's heart, Jamie, when it comes to some of this stuff. But that's why when I posted what I posted on Facebook, I really want to know what God is teaching us through this. And that's my platform. I want to know what God is teaching us. And so that's kind of where I am in all of this.
Which, reminding of Sean's words, or Chief's words, when things calm down and dialogue can be had. Because right now you go out there and ask that question, you don't come back. Ask it quick.
That was the reason why I wanted to go up there.
Oh, okay. You're tired of their friendship.
Exactly.
But when things are calm, how do you have those conversations? With maybe a group that don't want to talk to you. And it begins at home, but...
Well, you have an advocate with us. You have, we're the ones that are you do. You are a white American, I'm a black American. Black America looks at, just like you said about his community in Anderson, you feel pretty comfortable in Anderson. That's where he grew up. Those his people, black folk. So I'm gonna tell him, Jamie and my dog, and they're gonna communicate. There is a place of dialogue that starts because they're not all gonna not want to talk, but because we're involved as black Americans, you've got a place, you got a voice, so to speak.
So step 2 may be, I get a phone call from one of y'all, and you say, "Come here, I want to take you somewhere."
Exactly. I mean that's prime example. It's a good example of how it could happen.
So you got those bridge builders.
Absolutely.
That bring
and it's okay. And it's not one of these things where they're looking at and said, "Oh, here's another white dude trying to be peaceful."
Yeah.
No, you said you just, Jamie, you're trying to. It's hard work, man. These questions you asking, it's hard work. This means action. You said it 100 times in this thing. And like I said, people are generally lazy. They just want a way of excuse to get out of things. But I think we could move it further with some people outside our walls here.
And that's something
that's an action, so to speak,
that I would love to participate in.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mika, what are some of the things you're seeing that needs to be done?
So I just kind of listened and took notes as we were talking and engaging in that topic. And one thing I feel strongly about is no response is a response. It's a response, and it's noticed. So when Chief talked about getting involved, and when he touched on that level of accountability, I had a great idea. I did. So I used to keep a little journal of things that a gratitude journal is what people talk about. Things that they're thankful for. Just to kind of keep in perspective everything and all the blessings that we get, to put forth effort to recall those blessings on a daily basis. One small thing that could be very profound is, I talked about letting God be your compass and doing the right thing, see the need, meet the need. Just get you a little calendar or notebook and write down those things that you do intentionally every day to make a difference. Like they sat around the coaches and talked about what they did that was positive to help somebody else. You don't have to announce it to the world. That's between you and God.
Sure.
And then at the end of the year, when you get ready to go and look back and you wonder if you made a difference or not, hopefully you'll have 365 opportunities to do that. So that's also something you can challenge your children to do. Give them each a little mason jar and have scratch pieces of paper. Lord knows we got scratch pieces of paper everywhere. It'll be recycling as well. But that could be something each family member does, and watch it grow. And New Year's Eve, everybody just take a little bit of time to themselves before the new year comes in and look back and see all the wonderful, positive things they were able to do for somebody else the year before. So I got that little idea down.
And
That's something, an action that we all can take.
Well, it's also a little bit of conviction too, because if I go look at my book and I see a lot of blank pages, then I start seeing who the problem is.
And you might kind of slide the book somewhere. It may get lost or in the car or something like that. But if you got that jar, that's your centerpiece on the table. We would have 7 jars lined up on our kitchen table, and I've been looking for the perfect centerpiece. It's nobody's business to be looking at anybody else's, but if they need inspiration, that's fine. But we can look and see and have the visual in front of us every night of what we're doing actively to put in those jars.
Wow.
So that was just an idea I had there. And then I love the idea of having these community conversations with various generations, different perspectives, to give input and influence, but in a safe space. Right now, we can do that some way, somehow, because I was thinking if they can have these dance parties on Facebook and watch parties on Facebook, we can utilize technology to somehow have those interactive conversations in a safe space. Within certain, set the rules, set the guidelines, have moderators. Somebody gets out of line, everybody knows what the rules are in advance.
So we could be fielding questions now.
Yes.
Live.
You can also, we could have this conversation like you said. People could be chiming in with their questions or their answers or their response, and the moderators can kind of help facilitate that. You know, if a question's already been asked 10 times, we're not going to ask it again. But if something's offensive, you can choose to not discuss that then, but have somebody else follow up with that person later. So I think technology, there may be some tension with wanting to wait to do that in person because the heat might be turned up, people are very passionate, but we can utilize the technology we have to do something now and take action now to begin to have the conversations. Because that one conversation will lead to another conversation and another conversation. And if it's something on a regular basis, then you might want to switch up topics. You can come up with those topics, you know, as you go. But if it's a regular occurrence and a regular conversation within the community, then people will be prepared for that. So that's what I got.
Love it. I love it.